it's purchased with what's called a loan back. So within a SaaS pension, you can loan to your own company 50% of its value. So I did that. I bought the property, refurbished it with the pension funds as well, and then I'm just in the process now of refinancing that property, pulling that money back out again so I can use it on another project.
Because challenges are going to be there, and wins are going to be just after the challenge. So if you stop before the challenge, that's it, you lost it. But if you go through the challenge, through the fear, through the failure, you're going to get there. We are live for the program Lunch with Giuseppe. Welcome, even if it's not lunchtime. How about you, Jason?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I think when you work as hard as we do, lunch can be any time of the day. So we get it.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so just to introduce you properly, Jason Kay is a full-time property investor. You're going to tell me what you were before coming to property. You are a SaaS pension trustee. For those who don't know what SaaS is small self-administered pension scheme. There's quite a few differences between SaaS and SIP. We can talk about these things. And then you are specialized in commercial property in terms of strategies and also serviced accommodation. Serviced accommodation is kind of commercial anyway, so your mainstream is commercial, you know, in a broad term. Jason, where are you based?
Okay, so I'm based in North Lincolnshire, which, for those that don't really know where that is geographically, I'm located between Hull, Scunthorpe and Grimsby.
Okay.
So about halfway up the country.
Jason, you've been very active in the community, on Facebook, on social media. We're all following your steps. I remember meeting you, it was about two years ago, right?
It would be nearly 2 years, I guess, yeah.
Right, nearly 2 years ago, yeah. What I want to do during this interview, I want to go to explore your past, your background, and I don't mind if you share the struggles, the challenges, because we all know property is very profitable, but as every business, because it's a business, there are challenges. It's not all perfect, it's not all shiny. And I don't want people to think it's all shiny, because there are moments where you need to keep focus. Your mindset needs to be there, and you know, if you go through these challenges, you become stronger and stronger. So that is something that I truly believe. Now, Jason, what were you before starting in property, and what made you fall in love with property, if I can ask?
Yeah, sure. So my professional background is procurement. So for many years, I worked for companies like Tata Steel, Kimberly-Clark, a number of college groups and various other organisations. And my responsibility was spending their money in the right way. So I've quite a bit of experience working on different projects. I think the largest project I worked on was $47 million, and that was a factory expansion for Kimberly-Clark.
Okay.
And then I've done stuff, you know, really small stuff like air conditioning contracts and various other things. So quite a broad stroke of experience. After that, when I finished my last procurement role, I did a bit of consultancy, and then I set up a company called Live Lead with a business partner. So for quite a few months now, I've been full-time in property. I guess my background helps with that, because I understand projects and contractors and dealing with people and managing them and so on. So that's really where I come from in professional terms.
Why property and not some other business?
I think two things, really. Well, probably three. There's probably three elements to this. That's five, but that's three. The first one is I did a self-build in 2002, so getting on for 20 years ago now. I still live in that property now, and I actually did a large portion of the work. So I marked the ground out, I dug the footings, I laid the drainage, laid the foundations, did the electrics, did the plumbing, did the internal joinery, and so on. So by doing that, I learned a massive amount. But the biggest thing I learned was that set me on a track, unbeknown to me at the time, where 20 years down the road, I've got a property worth far more than it cost me. So I always knew for quite a long time now that property was something I wanted to get into, but I never really had the money. Life never seemed to be in the right place for me to start doing it. So the second element to me getting into property was a friend of mine who is an ex-teacher, and she started telling me about the HMOs. She converted and built and so on, and now she left her teaching career within 12 months, replaced her income, and now does property full time, and has done for 2 or 3 years, I would say. So she got me thinking, do you know what, this is something I can really do. I have the skills. I just need the finance to do it. And then the third element which allowed me to do it, and this was probably 18 months ago, was the SAS pension. So by being able to transfer my old pensions from Kimberly-Clark, etc., it gave me a pot of money which I could then use to start investing in property, and that's how I bought my first project. Okay,
the first project was commercial.
Yeah, so the first one's it's a mixed-use property in Grimsby. It's a ground floor shop with office uppers, and I've converted the uppers into a 2-bedroom apartment, which is now serviced accommodation.
Okay.
And the ground floor's got a top covenant tenant in, a games workshop. So I get really good returns from that property.
Okay, so let me understand, Jason. So you bought with the money from the pension, you bought this commercial property, but is the commercial property in the pension or is it in an LLP?
No, it's actually in a limited company. It could have equally been in an LLP. I do have an LLP as well. So this property is in the limited company, so I'm personally benefiting from the income for that property.
Okay.
So it's done. It's purchased with what's called a loan back. So within a SAS pension, you can loan to your own company 50% of its value. So I did that. I bought the property, refurbished it with the pension funds as well, and then I'm just in the process now of refinancing that property, pulling that money back out again so I can use it on another project.
Perfect. I'm explaining a bit to our audience as well, if they don't know anything about this scheme. There are different ways to invest in property. One of them is usually your pension. Now, it's not the state pension, but it's more like a private pension. Yes. How do you do that? You need to ask for the transfer value of your private pension. To be honest with you, when I've heard this one the first time, and I calculated the forecast, and I was getting like, I don't know, £260 per week when I would be 68 or something like that. And I said, why are they going to give me nothing? But when I asked for the transfer value, even if I'd been in the job for about 4 years at that time, the transfer value came back to like £65,000. Suddenly, my mind was like, where the hell were these money before? And, I could have potentially straight away do that one, take the money and then put them in the SAS and then lend back to me the same things you did, or buy it directly through the pension. So for those that don't know anything about this, please do get educated about this, because this is a very good strategy as well if you don't have physical cash in your bank account.
Absolutely. I think for me, my main pension, which was a Kimberly-Clark pension, I had never taken that into account for my retirement, because I worked there for 11 years, but it was never going to be enough to change the world. It was just going to be a small amount every year or whatever. Already with just one project using half of my pension fund, that's going to be bringing in £1,500 to £2,000 a month. You're never going to get that from your pension, and I've just turned 50. I'm nowhere near retirement age yet, so it's an immense tool. There's a lot to it, but if you get educated, it's a fantastic tool.
Totally. In terms of commercial properties, when you chose your first deal, what were the criteria for you? Were you a bit scared of choosing the wrong one? Or
I guess there's always a bit of apprehension. So for the first time, you're thinking, for me, the deal I actually bought, my thoughts were, this seems too good to be true. There were other deals before that fell through, which didn't happen. But with the one that did happen, to get a property So I'll happily share the numbers with you. So I bought the property for £88,500.
Okay.
And I will have spent £15,000 on it, doing the conversion to a 2-bed apartment upstairs. And that, as I say, will bring me between £1,500 in total and £2,000 a month revenue. The value of that will be around 160 to 180. So when I refinance, it will have cost me no money whatsoever, and I'll have income of up to £2,000 or so. To get a property with a tenant like Games Workshop in is, they're a multi-million-pound organisation. They're a very valuable tenant. They've been in there 9 years, and they've got 3 years left on the current lease. To get something like that for £88,000 was it was on the market. I'll be honest, it was on the market for a year or more. And from the very start of me looking at property, it was Trello to keep my pipeline organised into different strategies, and it was in there all the time. And I kept thinking, this is, why is nobody buying it? So that the apprehension's there, but what you've got to realise is not everybody thinks the same way as you do. Not everybody sees the opportunities that you do, and commercial property is far less competitive than buying buy-to-lets or flips.
You mentioned something really important there. It's about vision. It's about spotting opportunities. I think this comes with a trained eye. Because a blank canvas is a blank canvas for everybody. But the artist, the painter, knows what to, knows the final product. Do you know what I mean? So he or she can see what to put on the blank canvas, the final results. And for you, as I say, probably a lot of people just saw a blank canvas in that property, and you've seen something completely different, which was like, okay, this is a great deal. You can put a commercial tenant below, and service accommodation above. I can pull all my money out, and that's it. Move to the next deal, which is exactly what happened. So kudos to you for having that vision, having that artist eye, let's say, to see not only the blank canvas.
Yeah, I think it's not seeing what it is now, it's seeing what it could become, and being educated into multiple strategies allows you to look at it in different aspects. Would it make a HMO? Would it make a standard buy-to-let? Could I do a title split? There's many things you can do, and it's just working out which is the best fit for that property. And I struck it lucky with this one. It was a good deal.
Brilliant. Okay, so moving forward, now what kind of projects are you doing right now?
I'm looking at a block of flats, which is a potential title split. It's 5 flats. It's currently tenanted 4 flats. Got an income of just over 20,000 a year, and it's in an area I would like to convert it to SA. But obviously it's tenanted, so that might take a bit of time. But the title split alone, so the price I can get it for is 175,000, and the value after the title split will be about 300,000. So again, it's one of those where with no physical work, just solicitors' fees for splitting titles and so on, I can probably pull all the money back out of there, and have 20 plus, because only 4 out of the 5 flats are let, so 20 plus thousand coming in as revenue. So that's an interesting one. I'm also going to be doing a new build. So as you know, I did a self-build at a house, as I said earlier, and I'm planning the next self-build. It'll be a commercial project, but I'll actually buy it at the end and sell my own house. And I'm looking at some other plots for some new build developments as well. So I think one of the difficulties I certainly had, and I know a lot of people have, is the finance at the beginning, and especially in the last year, it's got harder and harder because the lenders are looking for experience. And it's catch-22. You can't get the lending to get a property until you've got the experience and so on. So luckily, I had the SAS pension to enable me to get started with the first property. So I now become an experienced landlord, and that opens the doors into other finance. So it's one of those things. I think we all want it to happen really quickly. But just getting my SAS set up and my funds transferred took a year. You know, so all that time I was raring to go and getting frustrated and trying to get finance and failing, and you know, you have to keep going. You know, if it's something you believe in and you want, you know, then you've got to keep going. It's, you know, that old saying, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up again. And you know, I had a few knockdowns. You know, I was buying a flip property, so because of the limited funds I had, I was buying a small 2-bedroom unmodernised property in Hull. I decided to get, because of the funding restrictions, due to no experience, I decided to get bridging funding, because I could have just funded it myself. I decided to get bridging funding to actually build that relationship with the lenders and start that journey, if you like. And on the drawdown day, they pulled the funding. So I had to pull out the deal. With hindsight, I'm glad they did, because all of the work and time and effort for £200 a month from a buy-to-let isn't going to change the world. And what it led to now is me looking for properties which deliver more cash flow. But yeah, it's not been easy, and people need to understand you've got to really keep at it.
Yeah. You know, you share some of the numbers. I mean, of course, you're going to have monthly cash flow that it's a dream for many people. But people need to understand as well that you need to put the work in. It's not like you get a personal trainer in the gym and then the personal trainer is going to get you fit. You have to go to the gym, you have to do the exercises. So the personal trainer is there for you, but you have to actually, you know, put the effort in. What have you learned from your mistakes, let's say, or no mistakes, from these drawbacks?
So one of the things I learned, and I've taken action on, is make sure you've got funding in place. And I don't mean that necessarily from a traditional lender as such. You know, that may be from a pool of investors. So funding is one, and part of that is making sure you've got a good broker, a good finance broker who will advise you about what you need to do and what is possible in your circumstances. Because your circumstances are unique. They're not the same as anybody else's, so it's no good going on Facebook and saying, you know, what can I do? You've got to speak to a professional, and preferably one who's in property themselves as well. So yeah, I think for me, it was making sure that nothing is going to hold me back any further. I've got to a certain point where I'm happy with where I've got to, I'm pleased, but I know to take the next step, I need to put some things in place. That's the biggest thing for me, because funding has been my biggest challenge.
Yeah, I think it's a common challenge for a lot of people that want to get into property. I always say, like, you can't run a marathon without training, you know, without doing the first steps. As you say, social media kind of overwhelm you, because you see other people doing big projects and say, oh, can I do this one as well? Yes, you can do it, but one step at a time. Don't run before you walk. That's the thing. You're getting there. You're going to get there. It's like me buying multiple properties in November. You know, I couldn't have done it on the first day I started in property. I just started with one, and then the next one, then the next one, then I'm buying multiple properties. But I wouldn't advise to a newbie, you know, to do it. It would be crazy, because for me it was a bit stressful. And I was doing it with experience and with support. But for many people that are just starting out, just take it easy. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't compare yourself with other people, because each person is unique. Each person has a different background. Each person has a different path. So that's my suggestion as well. And I totally appreciate your honesty here. I wanted to ask you one thing, because you said what I've learned is I need to get the funds first. Now, many times you hear this. Get the deal first, the money will come.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you say?
Okay, so on my wall here, I'm laughing because I've got my 2021 goals, and these were obviously set with my wife right at the beginning of the year. And one of them, number 5, was bring investors on board. And I was in a discussion with somebody a week or so ago, and they said, cross it out, because the investors, they will come. Get the deals and they will come. So it is that chicken and egg situation. And my problem is that I struggle to commit to a deal without honestly believing I've got the funds in place. So the last thing I want to do is go to an estate agent, view a property, put an offer in, it's accepted, and then I think, right, where do I get the money from? Because I've lost 2 deals already because I've not had the funds in place, or I've had them and they've come away. So that's why I sort of struggle with that a little bit. Going back to what we were saying about the journey, I'm not a fan of the word journey, but it's the best way to describe it.
Experience, yeah.
Yeah, sometime probably 5 years ago, somebody I was talking to mentioned there's an American preacher. Now, I'm not religious, but there's an American preacher called T.D. Jakes, and he did this sermon, and it was basically about levels. And the theory that he talks about is that when you go through life, it's like a staircase, and as you get into the top of the step, things get really hard. When you overcome them, you're on the next step, and then gradually things will get hard again. And what you're doing is climbing that staircase of success, if you like. So it meant a lot to me, because it made a lot of sense, because you get to that point where things are hard, and the easiest thing would be to give up. I've lost 2 deals. I was a year down the road from starting in property. It would have been easy to give up and think, this is never going to happen, let's go and get a job.
You mentioned something there again, I'm really interested in. You feel that hard time when you're very close to the next step, right? That is because you are getting out of your comfort zone. So, as you said, it's very easy to give up. Very easy. I mean, that's the easy thing to do. Say, you know what, I'm not doing it. But the real successful person, doesn't give up in these cases, keeps going. Now, what is that keeps you going? Because there must be some kind of passion, some kind of inspiration, because every person has this drive inside. What is that drive for you?
I think it stems back to a long time ago. So when I was 18, I was homeless. I was in a homeless hostel for a year, and then I got a council flat, and I got a job. And my job was working for an industrial cleaning company. And I was I had a van, and I used to take supplies around to different contractors. And I remember going to a job one day, and it was on a barge, a tanker. And the guys there were climbing into the bilge tanks, the storage tanks, and mopping up oil with rags. So they were you can imagine, they were covered in it. And my job was to take them some more bags of rags, because they'd run out of rags. And the charge hand of that crew said to me, "You'll be doing this one day." And I said, "No, I won't." And he actually said to me, "Oh, you're going to be an airline pilot, are you?" And I just said, "I don't know, but I ain't going to be doing that." So that was 19, 20 years old, I guess. A little time after that, I lost my mother. So she sneezed and had a brain hemorrhage and died. That was it. So no illness, nothing. It just suddenly happened. She was 52. So that was a massive, massive shock and a massive impact on my life. But she was a wonderful person. Now, in contrast, my father was the one who made me homeless when I was 18. He spent time in prison. He was an abuser. So he was a horrible person. And he lived till about 3 years ago, I believe. So what I did was use those 2 sort of elements. So I work hard to prove to my mother that I'm a good person and that I'm not like my father. And I do it to prove to my father I'm not like him. So I use the negative and the positive to become positive, to be able to keep driving myself on. And I've been somebody who has never been satisfied with what they've got, and that's not in a bad way, but I always strive and want to do better.
That's a very, very important story, because that defines a lot your behavior in choices in life, in taking choices. I thank you very much for sharing this. I know it's very personal, and I know you know it's only you and me here in this call. It's not live at all. We have a few people connected. If you're there, guys, just say hi on the comment here, so we can see that you're there. If you're watching it as a replay, just type replay. At least we can see who was there and watching this wonderful video. Now, Jason, I know, again, I like to touch on this one. This is very common in many people where they try to, I do it as well, where I try to please someone else or to prove someone else wrong. And I think that is something that we spend most of our life to do, you know, to prove someone else wrong. I don't know why we do it, but it's a bit of a waste of our energy, because we are doing something because someone else, not because that pleases us. And at the end of the day, I always say the main reason you should always keep in mind is a selfish reason, not in a negative connotation or the word selfish, but it's more like on a positive connotation. What I mean by that: when you go to bed in the evening, you go to bed satisfied, says, I've done something good today. Or when you wake up in the morning, you wake up with energy because you know you're going to do something good for yourself. It doesn't matter if you're helping other people, because that is a consequence of your status. You are the first person you should care about, always. Not in a bad way, but in a good way, in terms of, if you're not happy, there's no point you're going to help others. If you're not satisfied, there's no way you're going to progress. You know, you're going to mull over on the past, you know, on the background. You're going to think about regrets or anything that stopped you in the past. And unfortunately, most people drag these to the present, which affects the future as well. And I'm always interested in this, because it's like, today, Jason, you are like this because you made choices in the past. Okay, it's not because today you made a choice, it's because in the past you made a choice, for example, starting in property, or saying, I know now that I don't want to be like this person, and I want to be like I want to be. And then that's why you are here today with me, telling this story to the world. So that is a beautiful situation to be in. And today you're making choices, you're taking decisions that are going to affect your future. So that's why I say to people, it's very, very important, when today you focus on the present and you don't think about anything that happened in the past, because your problems is not right now, but is in the past, and you're not afraid of something that is going to happen in the future, because it didn't happen yet, and maybe is never going to happen. So whatever you're thinking about past and future, forget about. Focus on the present, and then plant the seed for the future.
Yeah.
So, question for you: what book are you reading right now?
So I use Audible, obviously, and let me just have a look. So I've recently gone back and read a book I read before. T. Harv Eker, is it Millionaire Mindset? Yeah.
Millionaire Mindset. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
there.
That's the next one. I'm actually going away on business on Monday, so I'm going to be on the road for 2-3 hours. So I'm saving that one for the journey on the road. So just trying to make the most of it. But I mean, obviously, I don't need to talk about mindset with you, but it is a massive part of certainly a property journey. You know, if you believe you can achieve and all that sort of stuff, you know, you've got to have that belief, and you've got to have the right mindset. And you know, those with a negative mindset are never going to achieve it. You know, so if that's somebody, you know, if you're not, but if you were somebody with it, you've got to change your mindset. If you know, otherwise you're never going to be successful.
Yeah, there is a misconception about mindset, thinking like, oh, I don't need that stuff. In reality, it's not like, oh, you know, I imagine this is going to happen, it will happen. You have to plan it. You have to have a vision. or find a vision. I don't know if you've seen a wonderful video from Simon Sinek, the author of Start With Why. There is a beautiful video about finding a vision. Not everybody has a vision, because not everybody is a visionary. Like he was saying, not everybody is a creative person, you know. So if you share a vision with someone else, then you can find it for yourself, and then you can follow it. You can just again Google on YouTube Simon Sinek passion versus stress, I think it's called. It's really, really nice. It's a 4 minutes video. Have a look, Jason. You will love it. In mindset in reality is what helps you when you're struggling, rather than when you are in a flat position. It's not like when you're good that you need to focus on your mindset. You need to, of course, have always an attitude that helps you to overcome the challenge. Rather than thinking, I have this problem, try to think, how do I solve this problem? Or, and there's another book, sorry, I'm just thinking about lots of books. Rather than how to solve the problem, is who is going to help me to solve this problem? And that's the book, Who, Not How. You know, that's another, Dan Sullivan. Again, the more you read, the more you become flexible with your mind, the more you know how to approach challenges. Because challenges are going to be there, and wins are going to be just after the challenge. So if you stop before the challenge, that's it, you lost it. But if you go through the challenge, through the fear, through the failure, you're going to get there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, you know, they say your brain's a muscle and you've got to exercise it. You know, it's important to keep that mind going. And you know, I spend most of my time outside of work time on YouTube and various things like that, learning. You know, if I'm driving, I'll have an audiobook on, because you can never learn too much. And like I said a second ago, even some books I've read in the last year, I've just put them on again. You know, I've just listened to them. I'm re-listening to them again, because I always pick something new up.
Yeah, you're on a different wavelength depending on the time. So sometimes you listen to a song and you love it, and then you listen years later and says, why did I like that song? It was horrible. Same with books. Sometimes they don't work the first time, but they work the second time. So it depends where you are. One last question from me, and I want to ask you about the future. What is your plan for the future? What is your plan for the next 3, 5, 6 months?
Okay, so my plan is for the next 2 to 3 years to continue growing the property business, and grow it in a way that does not rely on my presence, because we, myself and my wife, are going to be buying a property in Spain to, I won't say retire to, but we will in the end, but to spend more time over in Spain. You know, we like Spain, and it's, I guess the last year or so it's really hit home on, you know, where do we want to be if something happens, you know. We will be putting that into practice over the next few months, and we will be buying somewhere, and with the idea of spending chunks of time over there in between projects and so on. So the property company will continue on, and part of the reason for the SAS pension, or one of the benefits, is that we will start investing into the SAS pension in the next couple of years. And then that will grow and be passed on to the children, you know, and that will be their legacy. So,
Jason, thank you so much for being 45 minutes on this call. This is officially my longest lunch with Giuseppe. Oh, you have the wine!
Yeah, well,
okay.
Halfway through, the wife brought me wine, but I've left it there until the end. So.
Is that because she knew that you were coming to lunch with Giuseppe? Because I generally have a glass of wine.
It must have been. It must have been.
It must have been. Right. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
See you soon.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.